Hello and welcome back to another session of serde-yaml. It's Byron speaking. In the previous session, we added some more tag tests, which kind of revealed a little bit of weakness in the code so far. And weakness in the code so far. And I think now it should be time to look at explicit map entries. Explicit map entries are on the line of this, so they don't, actually explicit map entries are along the line of that. Oh, does it need a new line then? It needs a new line then. And yeah, we have tests that verify that this kind of syntax is working, like explicitly tagged keys, for instance. But explicit map entries are something we still have to do. And it should be relatively easy. There are a few things to think about. First, in explicit map entry mode, we support complex keys natively. The cool thing is, if we turn it on by default, we don't have to do anything special with kind of recording the values that we have to figure out if it's a complex key or not. Wait a moment. Yeah, so what I'm talking about is that if we have a complex key, then we need to know, you know what? I think we can make this work right away. Yeah, I think we don't, because I was thinking that we have to record the key at least until we know that it is complex. Because in the moment, for instance, we have some mapping element. Remember, or we basically set a flag that tells us if it is a mapping key or not. But the cool thing is, if there's something complex coming, then we know that. Because then open would be called at some point. Because if there's a sequence or a map or anything that translates to a sequence or a map, open will be called. And then during open, we could already emit. We could totally already emit. Yeah, because this means, yeah, nice. So this complex key flag is something we actually don't need. But we need to know that in the moment we put in a colon that we are part of that it's now an explicit thing that happens, right? So we have to kind of override locally the flag at least. And this is something we don't yet handle. Yeah, so let's try to make it explicit. So that's the implicit one. When there are complex keys, we need explicit mapping entries, but we can also enforce this in our options here. So let's enforce it. That's where we start, and from there we will then kind of venture out and make this more complex. And we want to try this. It doesn't really matter. It has nothing to do with flow mode, does it? So, yeah, I think flow mode can exist with explicit mapping entries. Key value. See? But here the new line is not required, but may be done. And here we have key value, and here a new line is required with the right indentation as well. Okay, so here actually indentation comes into play. Interesting. Very interesting. Interesting and very good. I didn't. Well, I think it's part of the YAML spec, but in a way, I kind of just use trial and error here. But yeah, it makes sense. Kind of looks good. At least it should be visually appealing, right? So something doesn't work with this thing. Ah. Unacceptable key. Dict objects are not. Now this is. Ooh, I see. Now this is a mapping key that is a dict. And now it can't. Now it wants to have a dict here. All right. Wait. So in block mode, we enforce a new line after the key. And what happens in this mode? How do we have a complex key here? Like a list. Okay, so actually explicit mapping in flow mode isn't really allowed, huh? Let's have a look at the spec. First, I want to understand this, because it seems that how should flow mode for maps support that? I think this is just something that happens to work for syntactical reasons, but yeah, let's have a look. Explicit single pair entry. Oh, true. This is just a folded. This is an interesting example. It's a folded key here, and that's the value. But that shall only be our concern once we parse that stuff. Gee. So if the indicator is committed, parsing needs to see past the implicit key to recognize it as such. Limit the amount of look at required. The indicator must appear at most 1024 Unicode characters beyond the start of the key. I see. Wow. So look ahead of up to 1024 characters is required here. In addition, the key is restricted to a single line. I see. So there's a limit to the size of the key that you can have. So basically, when we serialize something, this means we are also enforcing explicit mode, explicit entries, if the key is too long. Gee whiz. So that's complex. Yeah, lots of stuff is happening here. This is not easy. So if we are a mapping key, so let's just put this in. If value lang is greater than 1024, look ahead. Look ahead during parsing is just 1024. Up to or less than at most. Yeah, let's be, let's be a bit, let's calculate with fence post errors. Yes, I would do it like that. Also, yeah, let's finish this first. Therefore, we need explicit mapping entries for keys which are longer. Panic to do. Good. And I wonder if there is some sort of magic number here in the lib-YAML that would tell us that they do that kind of thing. Nope. Or they put it in different terms. But that's something that the emitter would have to do. So a plain scalar. See this? Analyze. Yeah, maybe that should be part of the analysis step. Do they use explicit somewhere? Explicit entries? No, they don't. Interesting. Emit flow mapping key. Flow level. Look, they have a flow level as well. I've got one too. Indicate, right indent. They have a special handler for canonical version. We are kind of more fine-grained here. All right. All these cases here that seem like they can... they return here. Okay, I see. I was thinking they kind of fall through all the time, and I don't know. Complex logic. But it's really like getting out of there. Oh no, wait. If it doesn't work, they get out of there. And look how nice they deal with error codes, right? It's like, oh, it didn't work, sorry. There we go. Return 0. Otherwise it would return a pointer, huh? Ooh. Nice. In the sense of how unsafe do you want to be? Anyway, who cares? It's C, right? But that's also why I do Rust. I don't necessarily want to write code like that. Even though it's totally valid to write it from time to time. But it's more difficult, I think. So, I was looking for something that tells me where it handles the key. Emitter, emit flow mapping key. So emitter check simple key. Check simple key. I think here is where they check for the length of the thing and for the complexity. So if it's an array or something, then they do this. Otherwise, they emit. Yeah, that's how they do it. And maybe we don't even need to change the state of that thing explicitly. Yeah. So they just emit something before they emit the key, and I might be able to do the same here. Yeah, I think that could work. So here's the implementation. Oh, aliases and stuff. Ooh, yeah, we don't deal with that at all. Shoo. Oh, look, length greater 128. So they do that even though the specification says... so I asked myself, do they deal with the specification here, which is 1024? And we also talk about Unicode code points, right? And they, with length, I think they might actually count the bytes and not the code points. So this is even less. And we also count the bytes, not the code points, by the way. Something to think of. Okay, so I wonder, can they read it or not? Ah. Good. That a simple key is limited to a single line is shorter than 24,000 1024 characters. I think I'm not sure. I know they work in bytes under the hood. Even though no wait, I think they work in code points. 32-bit. Yeah, so that could be it. So what does the spec say? Code points or characters? Unicode characters. Yeah, interesting. What do they mean? This would mean a grapheme. So what's a character could have multiple code points, right? But the good thing is, even if there is a character that has more code points than that, then in a way, yeah, we are just, yeah. Anyway, so we count bytes here. Thus might cut off at smaller keys at smaller length. Good. So this is that. I'm not sure if this has to be here. Yeah, it kind of has to be here, right? Because we are a callback mechanism. We don't know what's coming next, what's coming our way. So this is kind of why we have to deal with our internal state so much. But it's okay. Okay. So that is that. How can I work with this? If I have a complex key, yeah, the thing is, in the moment this is happening, then I already, then it's too late, basically. Basically, the moment I open something, I would need a callback. Okay, I have a callback. I would need to emit something right now. I think that's what would happen, right? And I would have to do it only for the current key. So if there's some nesting going on, which can happen, then this only happens once. And under these circumstances, and only under these circumstances, I could prevent myself from having to do weird stuff. And I don't see the entire logic in my head right now, to be honest. Not at all. Okay, so that's at least something. Let's read up. Let's keep reading. Might be more like a research session now. Note that YAML allows arbitrary nodes to be used as keys. In particular, a key may be a sequence or a mapping. Thus, without the above restrictions, practical one-pass parsing would have been impossible to implement. Single pair entries. JSON like. Oh my god. Oh my god. YAML, YAML, YAML. This is only for parsing. So does it mean that I can theoretically have a list and it would try that? It would try that. Oh my god. So this means that actually a complex key doesn't necessarily force me into explicit mappings. If I analyze it, then I could as well, you know. Gee. Yeah, I would have to keep the entire key on hold. To do that. But if I know that we are an explicit... also, if we have something in block mode, for instance, so this is invalid, but this is valid. So if we are in flow mode for whatever, then this can be used as a key like this. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, maybe I should focus, but it's good to know that everything is possible. I mean, YAML is super flexible, and I'm happy for YAML. I'm not so happy for the parser. I'm still afraid of that. We are already struggling with the serializer, kind of. But the good news is that eventually we will succeed. And we can at least say that we tried to obey to the spec, while still making it somewhat configurable. Okay, so that's... Is there more about explicit entry? No, apparently that's the only real example except for that guy. Okay. But because of parsing things, you definitely want to have this thing on a new line then. Yeah. What I would like to do or to know is, does this work if we put that on a new line now because we have a dumb implementation? Yeah, this works. And it still looks good. Okay, so let's try to think of how to implement explicit mapping entries. Just if it's set, right? So first of all, let's have a test case that tries that. So that's a simple case. Let's just focus on the simple case. So, yeah, we learned that in flow mode, we only support simple keys. That works, but that doesn't work on the parser side. That also works. It's kind of expected, but can I put in... That totally works. But this also works. So in long story short, in flow mode, the only thing we can have is a I can have a question mark, and that is it. And I wonder who would want that. I mean, that kind of makes no sense in flow mode. The thing is, if something forces us to flow mode, then we would be... Oh, no way. Wait. No, I think what I want to say here is that even in flow mode, we can have complex keys, but then they must also be appearing in flow mode. Yeah. The good thing about that is that really explicit mapping entries, this just affects this question mark here, and it only gets better in block mode. If we are in flow mode, this doesn't really help us at all in terms of readability and stuff. Okay. So let's do the flow mode then. Mapping flow. Here we go. So in flow mode, Let's try it here. So we have mapping details, explicit entries is true. Here we call it false. And then this would just be looking like that and like that. So let's look at the dashed is our first prefix here. So if you visit a sequence element, then we say, well, if it's a block, then we have this prefix here. And we do the same for map element. And the prefix is something we can always do unconditionally, I think. Yeah, so we don't actually care. And we don't care about this. We only check the actual options. Mapping details, explicit entries. Then we just place this. So that's a simple part. That's easy. So this might actually make this test work already. Except for, how do we deal with, yeah, so this is block mode here. But here this can also be flow mode. So we have to allow for a trailing space, leading space. So let's find code that does that. And I want to get rid of the encode ASCII. Better now than never, or better now than later. Because I don't think it's worth pulling it through. It's kind of part of the premature optimization. Yeah, fixing this will be relatively easy, even now, but just saying. Good, so this should be that. So wait. Do we need this? Yeah, I think we need this. Yeah, I will see if we need it or not. Let's see what we get here. That's the only mapping flow is the only test that would show us if it would work. Like this. Nope. Self, ops, borrow, format, encoding. Let's shrink the lines a bit. Just because we can, and it kind of is easy here. Like that. All right. Look, that actually worked. But that was the easy part. Awesome. So now we have explicit line entries, but there are lots of question marks when it comes to everything else. Complex keys, flow mode for keys instead of block mode. Yeah, so complex keys, when they're serialized, they basically obey the current flow mode rules. Makes sense. Makes total sense. But if we are in an explicit key, then we can't have other explicit keys, huh? Yeah, unfortunately here I can't test it. What happens if you have a value which happens to be a dict key? The value is another dict that has another explicit value. That totally works. So if I would have a complex key here, which doesn't work generally, then from the parser side, that would be allowed, I think. Key value, except for the fact that obviously we cannot put dicks in there. Yeah. Apparently this aborts on parser side already. It looks a bit like it. Yeah, but who cares? Nothing we can do here in Python. I wonder if it works in Ruby, but probably not. Because everything is mutable all the time. Problematic. All right. Yeah, the question why I was asking this is what happens if you have a mapping and a mapping, and if you have a mapping and a key, and if we can be just dumb in the sense of recursively working there or not. Probably we can just be dumb. There's no need to attempt to, like in flow mode, make it inherit this thing, so that if we are in an explicit mapping entry, then we cannot have other explicit mapping entries that are nested. I don't think so. I think this would be valid YAML, even though no one understands that anymore. But hey, with Rust, we can actually have that. So I think it's really important to be able to do that properly. Jesus. Whew. Okay, so that works. Let's just make a commit here. Oh, that's all we did in that time? It's all we did. Feet, sir, explicit mapping entry, handling. For now, it only works. Yeah. Wait a moment. We have it in flow mode. Let's have it in block mode. That's more interesting, because now we have to, or we should deal with new lines a bit differently. Because after the colon, we would now want to do this. Mapping block, here we go. Oh, interesting. After the colon, you have... oh, no, wait. The colon, that's the point, should be on a new line in explicit mapping mode. That's the thing. So let's do it. So here we have that, and then this is on a new line. There's no additional new line, but there is a space, and this is what I would expect in this situation. And probably we don't get that at all, because we don't have this handling for the colon yet. So here we go. How does it look like? That's okay. We're just missing... Oh yeah, true. That was my bad though. Oh, how does it work with empty stuff? True. Key. So now this is null, and now we have key 2. And this is null. So this is how we would do it right now. But that's okay, I think. So that's empty. Nothing goes there. Then we have a new line, question mark, new line. And that's kind of how it would look like. And what do we have? We are just missing the new line here. Then we have a new line, la la la. And then we would be missing a new line here. No, a new line before. Yeah. So now we would have that. Good. Let's just put it there, huh? I wonder, this Cullen method, I think it's only used in one. Oh no, it's also used here. Visit enum unit. And it's kind of a fake mapping, is it? Yeah. Enumerations are something I can't deal with right now because I have no idea what this would be looking like. This is something we have to put onto our ever-growing list of things. But I would like to handle them just like maps. I mean, the code must be reused. So whenever I visit maps, see, so I think this automatically works like that. Here do we visit elements at some point? No. Visit sequence element. I don't know how that works. Hopefully it will just boil down to the standard code that we have. That's my hope. I'm not sure about this though. And I think this is where we still would have to deal with things differently. Yeah. Visit sequence element. Visit enum sequence, because visit enum sequence is kind of like visit sequence element, except that we can't do anything here. And I think this is really, yeah, can I panic here without panic to do should be like a sequence, I guess. Yeah, I think this panic will be nothing that hits us right now. So everything with enum in the name should be marked. I don't know if is there something like not implemented here as a macro? Implement, unimplemented. Oh yeah. But just standard. Let's use a panic then. It's fine, good enough. Okay, so now this will be nothing we forget. If we forget it, it will be very clear to us. Maybe I also put I put a to-do here already. So I think that's all I can do. Let's do it like that. Okay. So now the new line handling. Map. Should be as easy as, well, if you have explicit entries. Then we put a new line in front of it. But only if we are in block mode. All right. So if let, damn it. I don't even use the block mode here. So where do we open our structure, by the way? Ah, visit map element actually doesn't do that. Visit map, it's something with map, huh? Visit map. So here we open our structure, then we visit the stuff, which we'll call visit element, which we'll call visit element at some point. And it's all good and nice. 40 minutes in, by the way. So it's time to cut it. And yeah, I think for now we'll just go ahead and say, well, let's check for our mode. And we have to do it correctly. Flow mode or, how was it called? Flow style or. Yeah, so this is the thing we need, but for the mapping details, that's exactly the match we need. And the only thing we are interested in is block mode, because in non-block mode, we wouldn't put anything in front. I think that's what I learned so far here. We can, but we don't have to. No, actually, the problem here is that this is now like a dict for him. Is it? How does it parse it? Because I know it didn't want to have a new line here, but this would now be a dict, right? But it can't actually parse it. Oh yeah, it would be a dict if we, sure, this needs to be flow mode after all. And this is why this doesn't work like that. But this should work. Oh, there's a comma missing. Let's see. So this actually works. So yeah, but we wouldn't do that naturally. In block mode we have to. Yeah, in block mode we have to, otherwise we don't. Good. And that's an if-let for us. Style, structure, style, block. So if that's the case, then we say, well, self is empty line is true because we shall emit a line break. We shall emit it. Do we have some code that emits one directly? Yeah, here it is. Jesus, this encoding call. And I think the next session will be all about refactoring and getting rid of the ASCII, at least, the ASCII thing. I could also keep the... I mean, the problem is that I do only write this stuff. Oh, wait. And I only do this if we have explicit entries, not to forget. So yeah, this is what I need here. It's clear in a way, but lots of code for what it does. Okay, so now we should get this line break. And we want to try on it for error handling. And that is that. If it compiles, which it doesn't, of course. 533. All right, I think I have added this in a few locations. So maybe it compiles now. What am I seeing? I'm seeing that this actually works as expected. Cool. So that case works. Awesome. We can't really say that this works at all because it just doesn't. I don't think so, at least. But yeah, we have something like it implemented. And the complex key thing, yeah, we'll think about that. But we have something now. We kind of support it, I guess. So we have it, we try it in flow mode, right? Sorry. Where else do we try it? We tried in flow mode, and that works still. And we tried in block mode, and that is really all we can do, huh? We could try it. Yeah, let's try that as well. Let's see how that looks like. So it would actually be just like this. Then we have the key, then a new line, then the null value, then a new line, then this, key 2, then a new line, and we are done. This is what we would get here in theory. Oops, nearly there. So let's see, let's compare. We get that string key, then new line, space. Okay. It looks rather similar. Oh, the right side. I forgot something here. What about that? And voila. Cool. We have managed to implement something. I'm still slightly happy. Is there another test that we could roll here? That makes it a bit more complex, or maybe with nested structures and stuff. But I think in order to get anywhere, indentation is what I should tackle next. Because for anything else that involves peeking into the value that is supposed to follow, we will need facilities that we don't have right now, like a YAML value that we simply don't have just yet. But we shall and will have it. And it will be great and awesome, but it's kind of a separate step that will take some time to implement, even though we can probably use YAML Rust to give us a head start here. Okay, let's make a commit. And say feed sir, simple, explicit, entries handling. Yeah, by the way, explicit entries, do I have something, do I have a link in the presentation options? Yeah, I think there was a link, huh? There was a link. Awesome. This is a good link. Ah, totally. But that's explicit block mapping entries, even though explicit, yeah, in explicit block mapping mode, you actually require a new line. Look how that looks like. This is flow mode with new lines. So canonical is something, I think we have that already, huh? Canonical, yeah. So this is where the line breaks, once we can configure them, will be configured a bit differently. Yeah. Skip CI in any case. Yeah, I also think I want to link this one here. Inspect. Here we go. That's this ID. YAML spec, block, entry, single pair. This is that. I think this might even call for an enumeration here, or a list. Let's call it a list. Awesome. I shall quickly amend this here while we are still preparing the commit. It's simple because it just deals. By the way, do I turn it on in canonical mode? Because that should be the case. Yes, I do. Just deals with adding new lines before colons in block mode and question marks in front of keys. This can all be done without peaking the value, which might actually require explicit mode. Even if we didn't say so in the options. The latter is also depending on the desired structure style. Damn it. It's depending on so many things. Kind of. And I think in flow mode, it's not, we don't really care about it in flow mode. So in flow mode, no peaking is required. Because we can just drop all the structures in flow mode right as they are, I think. That's what flow mode is there for. It's not white space dependent. And that's awesome. Yeah, whatever. Complex thing. Yeah, let's call this a session. Maybe the next one will just be about getting rid of encode ASCII. Thanks for watching and have a great day.